Hello, America. Welcome to your Leo Nation, where we believe in and support the rule of law. I am the happily retired Chief Mark Garrett. You know, there's a story in the news, been there for a few days now, about this radical proposal in California, which is redundant. Again, why do I keep going back to California, ladies and gentlemen? Because it's a cesspool. It's a cesspool of lack of interest in abiding by the rule of law, making laws that actually protect people, making laws that actually foster a healthy civil society. That's why I go back there. And that's why, yeah, I use Florida and other states to make stark comparisons, because the comparisons could not be any more than just that, stark. They're absolutely clear. So this story I'm talking about here, this is this bill, and this story I'm reading. It's an article is out of Fox News. Again, very often I bring you MSNBC. By the way, which is going out of business. What's going to be called MS Now? Who knows? But it just shows you how pathetic these radical news outlets are doing. They're trying to rebrand. They're trying to change. They're firing these late night hosts, and on and on and on and on. But again, that's a separate story. But anyway, I try to use some of those outlets, and I use them quite a bit. Today, I'm looking at an article from Fox News. California pastor leads rally at state capitol warning parents to flee state if dangerous bill passes. A couple of days ago, California pastor is calling on families to flee the state if a bill passes, which would expand the categories of who can claim caregiver rights over a child. Anyway, legal experts have concluded that this very well might be the worst, most dangerous legislation that has ever come out of California. And folks, that is saying a lot. That is saying a lot about possibly being the most dangerous legislation. It's against a lot of competition. And by the way, and it very well may be. Pastor Jack Hibbs of Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, warned in an interview with Fox News Digital, if this bill passes, you have to grab your kid and leave the state for your child's protection. That's a quote. See, we grabbed our kid and left the state 2 years ago because of stuff like this. By the way, and I'll read this and give the details of this bill, this proposal here. We saw stuff like this coming, but even just 2 years ago, I wouldn't have imagined that California lawmakers would propose something this ludicrous, this dangerous, this radical. Hibbs is leading a rally on Tuesday, again, this couple of days ago at 1 p.m. at the Capitol in Sacramento, urging Governor Gavin Newsom to veto Assembly Bill 495 called the Family Preparedness Plan Act. Again, the left-wing wackos always use wordplay on these bills. This should be called the Child Endangerment Act, is what it is, Endangerment Act. The bill intends to protect immigrant children at risk of family separation through immigration enforcement. First of all, let me take a little detour here. If California didn't have, by their own estimation, 2 million illegal aliens in their state, by their own asking, by their invitation, we are a sanctuary state. Come in, come one, come all. We'll feed you, we'll quote unquote educate you, we'll take care of your medical needs, we'll make sure that you are on the government dole if you can or decide not to work. You don't need to speak our language, and on and on and on and on and on. They wouldn't even have a reason. By the way, not that California lawmakers need a reason to do anything because they're whack jobs. But let's just go ahead and kind of stay in the lines of reality here. They would not have a reason to even propose such an abomination if they did not invite and encourage 2 million illegals to be in that state. And by the way, it could be very well be more than that. We don't know. The bill allows a caregiver who is a relative or has, quote, an established familial or mentoring relationship with the child, unquote, whatever that means, to sign a caregiver's authorization affidavit and be given the legal right to enroll the minor in school and consent to school-related medical care on behalf of the minor, its text says. HIBs and parental right groups in the state argue the bill is too broad and as currently written and could strip parents of their authority to make school-related medical decisions for their children. Schools are under no obligation to conduct further inquiries or investigations, the bill states. There is no requirement in the bill for schools to get parental consent, check photo ID, or do a background check on those who complete the affidavit, HIBs argue. Can you imagine this? Can you imagine a criminal giving a damn about what he or she is writing and signing on an affidavit? Do you understand this is completely allowing the fox to watch the hen house on so many levels? Hey, sign this affidavit. I don't know if you're a child trafficker. I don't know if you're a child molester. I don't know if you're going to kidnap for ransom. I don't know if you murdered. I have no idea. You might be all of those, but we're going to trust your signature on this affidavit. These are the people running California. The affidavit requests a driver's license number, and we know how easily those are obtained in California by anybody who has a pulse, and by the way, many who don't. But caregivers may provide a Social Security or Medi-Cal card instead, of course, because every legal alien, if they want to, gets a Medi-Cal card. Hibbs said that legal experts he's consulted have called the bill a human trafficker, pedophile, and kidnapper's dream come true. No kidding. 100%. I mean, this is literally a fantasy for people who may be able to weasel their name onto one of these affidavits and walk off with a kid. If signed into law, similar bills could crop up in other liberal states across the nation, he warned. And this is why I said at the beginning of this, why I go to California so many times, because for those of us who believe in the rule of law, for those of us who believe in parental rights, for those of us who believe in a civil society, for those of us who believe in self-responsibility, for those of us who put the blame on ourselves primarily when something goes wrong in our own family or our small circle of the universe, California is the absolute epitome of what we don't want in society. That's why I go there. This article goes on, but I want to remind you about something. See, this is not a one-off. We know that. It's not a one-off, but I want to refresh your memories and remind you that specifically when it comes to children, this is not a one-off. And there's more examples that I can give in this next one. But again, I want to take you back a little bit because I did a show about this a couple of years ago, maybe a few years. I can't remember now, but I remember doing this. Now, this is from what's it from? California Family Council. This is from June 6th, this article of 2022, just over 3 years ago. The California Senate passed a bill removing requirements for teachers to report specific incidents to law enforcement. Do you remember this? Do you remember me telling you this? Or do you remember it on your own? If not, listen carefully. I'm going to tie this up with a stark contrast very soon. Alarmingly, the goal of the law is to eliminate unnecessary police interactions in schools, according to, pardon me, guess who? The ACLU, one of the bill's co-sponsors. What in the hell does the ACLU have any business involving themselves in something like this with children in school, possibly committing crimes? And again, this is 3 years ago. Current law states that anyone, so quote, who willfully disturbs any public school or any public school meeting is guilty of a misdemeanor. Sounds reasonable. And shall be punished by a fine of not more than $500. That seems reasonable. I think a red light ticket in California is probably $600, unquote. Senate Bill 1273 overrules this law, meaning students will no longer be held accountable for such an offense. Think about that. Disrupting school meetings, classrooms, interactions with administrators. It's no longer reportable to the police. Kids should be comfortable and not traumatized at school, said the bill's author, Senator Stephen Bradford. I've talked about this crazy person a number of times. I know him. I've known him from my time in law enforcement. By the way, it's probably been a couple of years now, but I reached out. I think he left 2 messages. I talked to a live person at his office to call me, like have him on my show. Never heard back. Never heard back. So I reached out a couple of times. I have the phone calls right here on my phone to prove it. Never heard back from him. I'm not surprised. The bill also repeals the provision requiring school staff to report incidents to law enforcement, quote, whenever any employee of a school district or county superintendent of schools is attacked, assaulted, or physically threatened by any pupil, unquote. In other words, school staff will no longer be prosecuted if they fail to report assault or physical threats against employees. It was a requirement previously they do so. It's not a requirement anymore. They call the cops, even if they, or really more importantly, if they witness someone being assaulted by a student. They're not required to call law enforcement. Further, the bill changes certain provisions regarding the student's ability or student stability to bring weapons on campus. The Federal Gun-Free Zone Schools Act disallows educational facilities from receiving federal funds and blah, 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 has a policy, and it goes on and on and on about this. And it's a very complete article. Talks about mental health, violence, and all these things. The point is, the rule of law has been continuously, and I think aggressively, sucked out of the education system in California and in countless other left-wing radical states. It has been removed. And not only the laws on the books, but really unwritten rules. Some written rules, obviously, in the school. Those are gone. But I'm talking about more of a general sense of civility and responsibility. Those things have been extracted and discarded in regards to California public schools. They have been attacked. Self-responsibility, looking at yourself first as a reason why maybe something went wrong, why you didn't succeed, why I didn't succeed. Starting at home, so to speak, first, and blaming everything else external. This is a culture that California, again, I'm using California because of these specific examples, and there are many from the other states too, but this is just so easy for me to do because it's so obvious. But this is the culture that California and the left wing is breeding when it comes to the rule of law. The rule of law starts in your household. Like I said many times on the show, the rule of law starts with you. It starts with me, self-policing, that you will abide by the law. I abide by the law. And when I or you or any individual violates the rule of law, it's my fault. It's that person's fault who does it. It's not law enforcement. It's not the man. It's not society. It's not the current administration. If you know what the law is and you violate it, that's your fault. It's your responsibility, and the consequences are yours, whether it's a traffic violation, a fine to pay, or up the ladder from there. So, like I said, I want to contrast this, and I really wanted to make clear it's not just about the specific laws. That's where you want to go. The important thing is to lay a foundation of respect for rules, of protocol, of what makes a civil society. Those basic things are what takes you to the more specific rules and regulations in society. But if you don't learn right from wrong, if you don't know that, hey, when you screw up, it's your fault, and I've screwed up, and it's my fault. I've never blamed anybody else when I know it's my fault. This is the opposite of what's being taught in so many public school systems around this country. And it's being propelled by the ACLU and the NEA and so many other whack job organizations. So let me contrast what's going on in California to what's going on here in my home state, adopted home state, the free state of Florida. I'm reading from the school district in which my child attends school. A letter we got just a few days ago. And I'm reading this, and it was like I'd been holding my breath for, 10 minutes, so to speak. I guess I'd be dead by then. And all of a sudden got a breath of fresh air, an oxygen tank. It's not that I'm surprised about what I got from the school district here in this county, but it was just a reminder of why we moved here. And we did move here primarily because of the education for our kid and for the respect that law enforcement enjoys here in Florida. Again, it's not zero crime here where I live, but it's low crime. And it's low crime because law enforcement has the respect of the people who live in this county, this region, and yes, the state of Florida. So let me read a couple of things here. It's so forth and so on. This is from the State Board of Education, and this applies to all school districts, but this is from Ben Gibson. He's the chair, State Board of Education. So all the niceties here, let me read down. Let me give you a couple of examples. You have the right to expect instruction that, and again, this is talking to the parents. You have the right to expect instruction that encourages individual responsibility, effort, and merit, does not assign guilt or blame based on a student's background or the way God created them, is objective and factual, aligns with Florida's state academic standards, and protects students from being made to feel inferior or uncomfortable because of their race, sex, or religion. It goes on. And by the way, I only highlighted about just a number of these. There's a whole list of bullet points here that I'm in love with. Continues. Let me read this. As your child progresses through his or her school day, his or her, that's it. Below are some important areas we would like you to be aware of and request that any concerns you experience be reported to the Florida Department of Education. Now, again, I'm just going to say 1, 2, 3, but there's way more than I actually highlighted. 1, pursuant to Florida law, every Florida school must begin the day with a 1 to 2 minute moment of silence. Students may use this time quietly and thoughtfully, and we encourage you to talk with your child about how they might use that time in a meaningful way. Sounds pretty good to me. You could also expect transparency in the instructional materials. Maybe I need to go to school. Instruction materials and training used in your child's classroom by focusing on core academic subjects and rejecting indoctrination in the classroom. Florida has become a standard bearer for educational excellence. Reject indoctrination. I'm telling you right now, the first school, because my son's gotten older. He's gone from elementary to middle school now. Did a great job in his first school. It's elementary school. It's a fantastic school. I remember the day that I walked in there and walking down the hallways. There's no rah, rah, rah for this party or rah, rah, rah for that party or this political ideology or that political nothing. You have a whole bunch of our founding fathers. You have Martin Luther King. You have Frederick Douglass. You have all types of leaders in scientific and business world with quotes under them. And you have various kind of random quotes and phrases and passages. And what I noticed when the first 5 minutes of taking that tour, walking around school, so there's a theme here in this school, in these hallways. And the theme was, and I'm paraphrasing here, I'm just giving you my takeaway of how I felt. Basically, what was telling these students was, they read these things, if you screwed up, it's probably your fault. If you did something wrong, you're unhappy about something, it's most likely something that you did. Not always. The point was, look at yourself first and make sure you did everything you were supposed to do. It's your responsibility. Now, they also, of course, teach broader civics, right and wrong. people doing wrong things, right things, bad things, good things, whatever it is. But there was a theme there about make sure you are doing the best job you can to do the right thing first before you blame others. There may be blame associated with someone's behavior. We all know that as adults. But the point is, your first responsibility is to your own behavior. Florida law requires schools to ensure that restrooms and changing areas are designated for exclusive use by boys or girls. Schools may also provide single user or unisex options. These protections help maintain privacy, dignity, and safety for all students. It's boys or girls, and that's it. Parents have a number of additional rights as summarized before. Again, I'm skipping a lot of stuff. The right to direct your child's education, upbringing, moral and religious training, the right to choose the educational setting that is best for your child, public, private, religious, or home education, period. It's called school choice. Ask yourself, why is California and why are so many left-wing states 100% completely opposed to school choice? Just ask yourself. You come up with your own reasoning. Going back to this last article I read, talked about from 3 years ago about the bill where teachers and administrators are no longer required by law to contact law enforcement when students punch them in the face, literally. Remember that? I just talked about that. Listen to this. The right to be promptly notified if any government or school employee suspects a crime involving your child, period. In other words, if your child is a victim or if your child is the alleged perpetrator. It says involving your child, period. Now, I know, and I probably read over some of this. Believe me, I know the officials here in law enforcement in this county very, very, very well. And I know the school reaches out to, I know factually, the schools immediately reach out to law enforcement here when a student goes off the rails in any number of ways. I know those deputies who work at the school, that work at these schools. Classroom instruction on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in grades pre-kindergarten through 8th. If such instruction is provided in grades 9 through 12, it must be age appropriate and developmentally appropriate and consistent with state law, and so forth and so on. And there's some more that I'll highlight, but I'm going to end there. The point is, when you look at this, the school systems here within the broader law enforcement and general government culture in which we live in Florida are centered around civility and self-responsibility and not seeing people as part of a group, but as individual human beings. And yes, seeing only two sexes, male and female, boys and girls, men and women, period. This is the foundation of a civil society, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, it's what California used to be when I was a child in California. There's nothing here that I read that would have been at odds with California education when I was in school. Absolutely nothing, including the fact that teachers would whip your behind. And then you go home and your parents find out about it. And what happened again? Then you get hit again for getting in trouble. This is the way California used to be. This is the way Florida is now. This is the way most red states are now for the majority of their counties and districts. I'm hoping it stays this way in Florida for a long time. And as I said before, I'm cheering for California. I'm pulling for California. And I'm hoping by some miracle before I meet my maker, California returns to some semblance of the great state it used to be. For your Leo Nation, I am the chief, the retired chief, happily residing down in Florida. Take care. God bless you. Hug your kids. See you next time.